In 1881, 25 American soldiers sailed toward the Arctic on a mission to prove their nation's greatness. They would plant the flag closer to the North Pole than anyone in history. They would collect scientific data that would change the world. But 3 years later, only 6 men survived. The rescuers found bodies with flesh carved from the bones. This is the story of how a triumph turned into one of the darkest chapters in American exploration history. Let's go back to the beginning. The year is 1881. The world's most powerful nations are locked in a competition called the First International Polar Year. It's not just about science, it's about dominance. The British have held the record for reaching the farthest north for 300 years. America wants to shatter it. The man chosen to lead this mission is First Lieutenant Adolphus Greely, a U.S. Army signal officer. He's disciplined, rigid, and follows orders to the letter. There's just one problem. Greely has zero Arctic experience. He's never set foot on polar ice. He's never commanded men in extreme conditions, but he's determined to succeed. His crew is 25 men strong. Some are hardened soldiers. Others are fresh enlistees who've never seen real danger. They're heading to Lady Franklin Bay on Ellesmere Island, less than 500 miles from the North Pole. The plan is simple. Establish a permanent meteorological station. Conduct astronomical and magnetic observations for 2 years. Wait for annual relief ships to bring food and news from home, then return as heroes. In July 1881, they arrive at their destination and build Fort Conger. The structure is solid. The supplies are abundant. They have enough food, fuel, and equipment to last years if necessary. For months, everything goes according to plan. The men settle into routines. They collect data. They endure the endless polar night. And in May 1882, something remarkable happens. 3 members of the expedition push north on a desperate dash across the ice. They break the British record. They reach farther north than any human in recorded history. The mission has already achieved glory. But glory doesn't feed you when the ships stop coming. Summer 1882. The first relief ship attempts to reach Fort Conger. It never arrives. An impenetrable wall of ice blocks the route. The ship turns back south. The men at Fort Conger are disappointed, but they're not worried. They still have plenty of supplies. They can wait another year. Summer 1883. The second relief ship, the Proteus, pushes into the Arctic. The crew is confident they have orders to resupply Greely's men and bring them news from home. But on July 23rd, disaster strikes. The ice closes in like a vice. The Proteus is crushed in seconds. The hull splinters. The ship sinks instantly. The crew barely escapes with their lives. They leave behind a few meager caches of food at Cape Sabine and flee south before the ice traps them too. Back at Fort Conger, Greely has no idea what's happened, but he has strict military orders. If no relief ship arrives by a certain date, he must abandon the fort and head south to a pre-arranged rendezvous point at Cape Sabine. It's late August 1883. The deadline has passed. Greely makes the decision. They're leaving. It's the worst mistake of his life. The retreat is a nightmare from the start. The expedition loads their boats and pushes into the freezing waters, but the ice doesn't cooperate. Massive floes drift unpredictably, blocking their path. Open water turns to slush and freezes around them. They lose critical equipment. Their boats are damaged. For weeks, they drift helplessly, unable to control their direction. The Arctic is playing with them. By October, they've traveled nearly 300 miles south. The men are exhausted. They're cold. They're starting to run low on food, but they're also hopeful because they're approaching Cape Sabine. According to the plan, there should be a rescue ship waiting, or at the very least, massive stockpiles of food to last the winter. They just need to reach the cache. October 21st, 1883. They land at Cape Sabine. What they find changes everything. There's no ship. There's a rock cairn with a note inside. Greely reads it aloud. The Proteus has sunk, the relief mission failed, and the cache they were counting on? It's not a winter's worth of food. It's 40 days of moldy bread and rotten meat for 25 men in an Arctic winter that lasts 8 months. The silence that follows is deafening behind them. The ice has closed in. They cannot go back to Fort Conger. They cannot go forward. They are trapped on a desolate, wind-blasted rock with almost no food and winter setting in fast. Greely orders the men to build shelter. They find an overturned boat and use it as a roof. They pile rocks around the edges to form walls. This crude structure, barely 10 feet wide, becomes their home. They call it Camp Clay. The rations are cut immediately. Each man receives a few ounces of food per day. It's not enough to survive. It's barely enough to delay death. Within weeks, the hunger becomes unbearable. They eat their sealskin boots, they boil leather straps and swallow them down. They scrape lichen off rocks. They collect shrimp from tidal pools, counting each one like treasure. They burn seaweed for warmth because the fuel is gone. By January 1884, the first man dies, then another, then another. Scurvy takes hold. Their teeth loosen, their gums bleed, their skin turns black. Men begin to hallucinate. They see feasts that aren't there. They talk to people who don't exist. The psychological collapse is as brutal as the physical one. Greely tries to maintain discipline, but its slipping food theft becomes rampant. Men steal from the communal supplies in the middle of the night. Greely knows that if the theft continues, they'll all starve faster. He issues a warning. Anyone caught stealing will face severe consequences. But the hunger is too strong. Private Charles Henry is caught stealing shrimp. It's not the first time. He's been warned. He's been punished. But he can't stop. The other men are furious. They're all starving, and Henry is taking food from their mouths. Greely faces an impossible choice. Let the theft continue and watch everyone die faster, or enforce the rules. On June 6, 1884, Greely gives the order Private Henry is to be executed. 3 soldiers take Henry outside the hut. They shoot him 3 times in the back. His body is left in the snow. No one speaks about it. There's nothing left to say. By mid-June, only 7 men are still conscious. The rest are dead or dying. The survivors are too weak to move. They lie in the collapsed tent, waiting for the end. Outside, bodies are piled in the snow. Inside, the living are barely distinguishable from the dead. June 22, 1884. 2 ships, the Bear and the Thetis, push through the ice toward Cape Sabine. The rescue mission has finally arrived. They find the tent collapsed. They call out. At first, there's no response. Then a weak voice answers from inside. The rescuers pull back the canvas. The sight stops them cold. 7 skeletal figures lie in their own filth. Their eyes are hollow. Their skin is stretched tight over bones. 1 man, Sergeant Ellison, dies shortly after from his injuries. Only 6 will make it home alive. 19 men are dead, but it's what the rescuers find outside that haunts them. The bodies aren't intact. Flesh has been sliced from the thighs and arms. Bones have been stripped clean. The rescuers know immediately what happened. The men ate each other to survive. The US government tries to bury the truth. They want to preserve the heroic narrative, but autopsies later confirm it. At least 6 of the dead were cannibalized. The survivors deny it at first. Then, quietly, the truth comes out. When you're starving, when you're watching your friends die, when the choice is between eating the dead or joining them, the rules of civilization don't apply anymore. Greely returns to America and is eventually promoted to Brigadier General. He receives the Medal of Honor, but he never speaks publicly about what happened at Camp Clay, the execution, the cannibalism, the choices they made in the dark. Those secrets go with him to the grave. The Greely expedition achieved its goal. They broke the record. They collected invaluable scientific data, but the cost was unimaginable. And the question that haunts the story isn't whether they survived, it's what they became in order to do it.